Just ahead on CTV News.
Well, it is day 2 of Governor Wes Moore testifying in support of the 2025 Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act. We'll have details on everything he had to say coming up.
And we sit down with the County Council District 5 candidate, plus...
What's going on, CTV Sports family? I'm here in Baltimore where the Bowie State women's basketball team is matching up against Virginia State in the semifinal round of the CIAA tournament. I have some highlights for you coming up in a bit. Stay right there, you don't want to miss it.
Those stories and more on CTV News starting now. Good evening. This is CTV News for February 28th. I'm Mariah Gillette.
And I'm Katara Jones. Thanks for joining us. Governor Wes Moore testified to the General Assembly about the state's troubled budget yesterday.
The state is currently facing nearly a $3 billion budget deficit. CTV's Michaela Newton is in Annapolis for day 2 of the testimony.
Governor Wes Moore testified before the House Appropriation and Ways and Means Committee in support of the 2025 Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act. Moore, who unveiled his proposal last month, emphasized the serious financial challenges ahead, partly due to federal budget cuts under the new Trump administration. He expressed concern over the impact of Washington's cuts.
We have to be good stewards of Maryland taxpayer dollars, and I think that's exactly what this administration is showing, why for the 3rd year in a row we've actually introduced a budget that is smaller than the year before in terms of general funds. That hasn't happened in over a decade.
Maryland is already facing a $3 billion budget deficit, and Moore's plan calls for $2 billion in cuts along with revenue increases targeting higher income earners, state fees, and delivery taxes. While some Democratic lawmakers support the plan, others have raised concerns about proposed cuts, particularly in higher education and programs for individuals with disabilities.
What we're seeing with the department right now are denials of everything.
So essentially these proposed cuts would mean that services wouldn't be available for people with disabilities.
Correct.
Republican lawmakers, meanwhile, argue that the plan won't do enough to attract businesses and will harm residents.
I'm going to work with anybody and everybody, and I will look at any and all options to make sure that we can grow this economy and that we can make Maryland more business friendly, that we can give middle-class Marylanders a tax cut because middle-class Marylanders need some tax relief, and we're going to make sure we're investing in our people.
With the state constitution requiring a balanced budget by April 7th, lawmakers now have just over a month to make decisions that will shape Maryland's financial future. In Annapolis, I'm Michaela Newton for CTV News.
Michaela, thank you for that report. And Maryland Comptroller Brooke Learman was in Prince George's County Thursday to discuss the early successes of this year's tax season. Joined by Representative Steny Hoyer and County Councilwoman Wanika Fisher, Comptroller Learman visited the Department of Social Services, meeting with workers and giving a report on the effectiveness of Maryland's new adopted tax system, Direct File.
We've seen high satisfaction rates of those who have filed across the country. 98% of people who use Direct File report being satisfied or very satisfied using Direct File. They can save time with the option in Direct File to import existing information into their federal and state tax returns. They can access the site on their smartphones. They can engage with the platform in English and in Spanish, and they can file without paying for the privilege with their hard-earned money.
And Maryland is now one of 25 states who have adopted Direct File.
Community activists were in court this morning fighting to challenge a county zoning law that they call illegal. All of this centers around Council Bill 15 that was passed last summer by the council. The activists that filed the lawsuit say that residents were denied an opportunity to comment on amendments that were added to the original bill. They also have issue with several of the amendments. Council member Tom Dernoga is in support of the lawsuit and was a sponsor of the original bill. Dernoga says items in his bill were pushed out by former council member Mel Franklin and backed by other council members.
Action that the county council took last summer was a travesty. And that the bill takes away citizens' rights to meaningful participation in land use. I'm against taking away the citizens' participation. I mean, that is something that, as a government official, you should not be in favor of.
At least one of the amendments itself is illegal. It's called spot zoning, or a special law where the council passes a legislation that favors a particular party or a particular project instead of addressing the general public policy issues. And the amendments themselves are damaging.
A judge says a new hearing on this matter is set for May 21st.
And council member and county executive candidate Calvin Hawkins shares his opposition to the proposed superconducting magnetic levitation train. Hawkins says the maglev would negatively impact the county's economy, environment, and people. The proposed maglev train goes from D.C. to Baltimore and uses a new set of pathways, which Hawkins says could hurt county habitats. He's also concerned about high ticket prices, making the maglev less accessible to county commuters, and says the maglev could impact county homeowners.
I'm completely against it for the destruction, for the interruption it would cause. When you talk about the homes, the people who have to leave because of eminent domain, leave their homes, relocate, the number of environmental issues with it, it's just not economically feasible for Prince George's County, even if it stopped here. It's just not.
And today, U.S. Agency for International Development workers left their headquarters for the last time after the Trump administration terminated over 90% of employees. Thousands of USAID staffers had 15 minutes to clear out their desks and be escorted out of the Washington headquarters. The president and Elon Musk's efforts to downsize the government have targeted the agency since the administration came into power. $60 billion in foreign assistance has also been slashed. One former agency employee says with USAID's work, international and domestic interests will be in danger.
It's been easy to cut USAID because Americans don't see that direct harm the next day, but we will see it. We will see the direct harm. We will see more diseases coming. We will see anti-Americanism popping up. Terrorisms are be given space now. So it will put us in a weaker position for sure.
And the fraction of agency employees that kept their jobs are set to be absorbed into the State Department.
Hyattsville police have located a suspect in connection to a sexual assault of a senior. 25-year-old Cameron Bonaventure was arrested outside of the county on unrelated charges. He is being accused of entering an assisted living facility and assaulting a 91-year-old woman in September of last year. Police say a nurse saw a man dressed in all black running out of the patient's room. The suspect is charged with third and fourth degree sex offense, along with second degree assault. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Katara Jones.
And I'm Mariah Jalad. Still to come.
Hey, there's a lot of things going on around the DMV this weekend. Stay right there. What's the Move is up next.
My opponent is completely disregarding almost half of my arguments which I responded to.
Communities must step up
Laws
and
alone
protest
cannot
against this
stop a
normalizing.
bullet.
Well, I completely disagree.
Point of inquiry, do you guys even realize that the #1 killer of children and teens are gun injuries?
You're probably starting to realize now, this is not a debate.
There is no adult in this earth that wants children to die.
I worry for my kids.
Welcome back. Judges may have a few more years on the bench before mandatory retirement if the State General Assembly passes a new bill. The proposed bill would have voters decide on a constitutional amendment to raise the mandatory retirement age for judges from 70 to 75. One sponsor is Senator Anthony Muse, who said the current age rule is unfair and has led to the loss of talented judges in Prince George's County. Those opposing the bill say the change could decrease diversity on the bench and that older judges may be more out of touch with the younger generation. The bill has been heard in the Senate but still has a hearing coming up in the House of Delegates.
NASA is gearing up for 2 lunar deliveries in just 2 days. A double milestone is under the agency's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program. Texas-based Fiery Aerospace will land its Blue Ghost Mission 1 on Sunday, carrying 10 NASA experiments to test lunar drilling, soil collection, and space weather effects. Meanwhile, Intuitive Machines, or IM-2 mission, will touch down near the moon's south pole, searching for water and oxygen, key resources for future astronauts under NASA's Artemis program.
We'd like to understand how the moon formed. There is a hypothesis that a Mars-like object impacted the Earth in its distant past, and that collision eventually developed the moon as we see today. And that's actually a pretty good data point if we can get more data on how the moon formed, of how solar systems formed, how solar systems and planets and other star systems could form. So the moon is actually a pretty good place to get that data, and the South Pole and the far side, for instance, are places we'd like to go.
These back-to-back landings mark a major step in NASA's push to regular commercial moon deliveries, paving the way for humans to live and work on the lunar surface. And the county school district has seen an increase in graduation rates, and Hispanic and English learner students are the driving force in the new numbers. School leaders say the class of 2024's graduation rate reached to 80.2%. This is a 5.6% increase from the previous year. Graduation rates among Hispanic students increased by 12%, while there was also a 14.6% jump with English learners.
Well, federal job losses have hit Prince George's County, and leaders are stepping up to help. Congressman Glenn Ivey and County Council Chair Jolene Ivey are hosting a Public Servant Resource Summit tomorrow at Greenbelt Middle School. The event offers employment opportunities, union support, and human services resources, helping those at risk or recently laid off. And special guests include legal experts challenging recent federal firings and personal finance columnist Michelle Singletary.
Got another panel that's going to look at advocacy. So if people want to get involved in the pushback, if they want to come out to some of these protests that we've been doing here in Washington, D.C., if they want to support organizations like the unions or Democracy Forward that have been leading a lot of the court cases, they can do that too. So we've got a lot of efforts to go together with this. Oh, and I forgot career counseling. We've got some folks coming. Employ Prince George's will be there, and other groups to try and help people sort through what kind of options they might have on the private sector career front.
The summit takes place Saturday at Greenbelt Middle School from 10 a.m. until 2 in the afternoon. For more information, visit the website on your screen.
Now, Mariah, this nice weather we're having makes me want to go out and enjoy it while we still can.
Definitely. You really want to take advantage of it while it's here, because I have a feeling it's going to get cold again. But in that time, solidify your weekend plans. Brittany Aaliyah is back just in time with another What's the Move segment.
Happy Friday, everyone. Are you ready for this weekend? Because I surely am. So we've had some really nice weather these past few days, but because winter is not quite over yet, let's enjoy the tail end of it tonight at the DMV Winterfest. It's going down at Capital One Arena, and the lineup is insane. So watch how fast I run through this. You ready? Lotto, Sexy Red, Honcho, Jacquees, Skillet Baby, Fat Trail, Big Boogie, 310 Baby. And that's not even everyone we know who's pulling up tonight. So make sure you grab your tickets now, because we're literally just a few hours away. And we just had the Super Bowl in New Orleans, but what about bringing New Orleans here? Well, that's exactly what you can expect, because Mardi Gras at the Wharf is in full swing tomorrow from 3 to 7. This is the biggest Mardi Gras event in the DMV, and the Wharf is going to come alive with a huge parade, some good old NOLA food, and a fireworks finale. Go grab a hurricane, dance to some live music, and have a good old New Orleans time. Okay, so moving along, We have our Washington Capitals facing off against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think tomorrow's hockey game will make for a perfect family outing because it's also Kids Day. And the first 5,000 kids in attendance will receive a special Capitals giveaway. How cool is that, right? So don't forget to bring the kids. Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a fight on our hands tomorrow. You know what I'm talking about. Baltimore's champ, Gervonta Tank Davis versus DC's champ, Lamont Roach. So many people are either heading up to New York or throwing watch parties. And I'm not going to tell you who I have my money on, but this main event is one you do not want to miss. And finally, I want to end this on a beautiful note. This Sunday, Legacy on Ice will be taking place at Capital One Arena starting at 3 p.m. This 2-hour tribute honors the 28 members of the figure skating community lost in a tragic plane crash near Ronald Reagan International Airport. Proceeds will benefit families and first responders affected, and this is a beautiful way to show support, so don't miss it. That's all for What's the Move. Enjoy your weekend, everyone, and I'll see you next week. Have a great one.
3, 2. Still to come on CTV News.
We're talking with County Council candidate for District 5, Fred Price Jr. Stay tuned.
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. See, retirement is the long game. We can't play about our future or our finances. Make moves, set up goals. Don't worry about a setback. Just save up, stack up to reach them. Let's put ourselves in the right position. Pre-game to greater things. This is pre-tirement.
The special primary election for the County Council District 5 seat is just 4 days away. CTV is continuing our coverage to bring you exclusive interviews with each of those candidates.
And joining us in the studio today is candidate Fred Price Jr. Mr. Price, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me this evening.
So why do you want to sit on the County Council and represent District 5?
Well, the major thing I find that our political elite don't have a vision for Prince George's County anymore. And I wanted to see that they keep promises made or promises kept. We have in-ground development on the Addison Road and Eastern Avenue. I've got Douglas Development has came out and started a project. It's half finished. Want to get it done. We over in Chevrolet there, over there, arguing about annexing a dump. I want to encourage development of that site and get it done and stop arguing about annexation and move it forward in that. I've been successful, well, let me put it this way. I've never felt that I would go into a fight as a Marine with one hand tied behind my back. But in Prince George's County of late, it's been all Democrats. And every time there's a change in Washington, we have nobody to speak for us. I'm a Republican, all right? I understand what is going on today. My grandson just passed, and my great-grands and my daughter-in-law works for the government, so we're stressed out. But whilst we're being stressed out, we got to move forward. I was able to get Governor Hogan to put in money for the the blue line, East Capitol Street, Central Avenue and that. I was able to get an eastbound ramp put on to Route 50 at Cabin Branch Road and that. I was able to get from the federal government.
And Mr. Price, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to know from you, sir, you know, the county is dealing with a big deficit, $170 million. What type of cuts do you think should be made to the budget without cutting those essential services?
I will not have opportunity to deal with this budget by the time this election is over. But as I go into the following budget, I was looking at trying to improve services by using AI, artificial intelligence, and that. I remember I was used to be administrator at State Highway Administration, and they brought in computers. Everybody wanted a computer, but they didn't tell people that for every computer you got to get rid of 1.5 employees. All right? So after I got the computers, my employees were not happy with me, because the next cycle I had to get them. When I go to, we have technology that has been upgraded to the point that when I look at the state budget, the county budget, and make a decision on what needs to be cut, improved, et cetera, and that, I will understand that I'm going to have to make some major changes in that. One of the areas would be 311. I have police tell me, don't call 311, call 911. He says it's the same people, and they can't handle yours. They're going to handle the ones that are most critical and life-saving in that. We have technology now that we can put in. They're doing it everywhere. A 311 system, just like, what's that lady that talked to me on the GPS, okay? Tells me that, all right? Okay. We can do that.
And, you know, you've been a longtime resident living in the county. How do you feel that the direction the county is going? Do you feel like it's positive? What do you feel are the major issues in the county?
When we came out of D.C., that's why they call Prince George's County the 9th Ward, okay? We were colored, all right? And since then, we've broken into tribes. There's Hispanics, there's blacks, there's African, and they all have a different vision. I remember an African businessman coming to me and having something in his hand, and I said, wait, that ain't the way we do business here. It took me 20 years to convince him to read and follow the American instruction. He's a successful businessman now. But I'm seeing that our political elite have broken off in, well, you got also Brooks supporting this one, Moore supporting this one, she supported that one, and she supporting that one. We don't have a common vision. I want to go in there and help them mediate. And we don't have no seniors on there. They just put out a bill to help the seniors, and they had to take it back because they got it wrong. I can sit there and tell them what Paladin is.
And you know, the economy is really important for all people in Maryland and here in Prince George's County. How would you want to improve the Prince George's County economy if you're elected to the county council?
Build up. Take Columbia. If I had my vision, I won't be here to see this, I don't think. Maybe, Lord. I would build Columbia Park Road from the Cheverly Metro Station all the way to Fairmont Heights Senior High School. It would go straight up. There would be commercial on the bottom, and I could roll my wheelchair out to the elevator, go down, get me a cup of coffee, and go over to the recreation and entertainment facility. Matter of fact, we got a good one. If you get a chance, come up on Tuesday and Thursday, the American Legion in Cheverly, and see how the DC senior hand dancers do. We've got to socialize people. People are walking around looking at their phone, matter of fact. Yeah.
And you mentioned, you know, there's no senior representation on the county council. So if you were on the council, how would you address issues like affordable housing for seniors?
Well, right now I'm going through long-term care. Seniors need, like transportation. I've heard transportation is wrong. I'd have someone to teach them how to use Metro Access, how to use the bus and that. How to use your card now, because they no longer accept money. I go to a place and they turn, I couldn't go to the Bowie basketball game last week. Well, I ended up going because they don't accept money. I'm an old person, I carry money in that.
Like physical cash.
Yeah, like physical cash. But here's the main thing. I believe it's CB 006. Someone put in to delay looking at emergency service at the Largo Hospital. We don't want it delayed. Everywhere I went, the seniors are talking about they're going out to get care of that.
All right, well, Mr. Price, thank you so much. We're running out of time, but thank you so much for coming on to our studio today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, sir. And make sure you tune in to CTV News for our continuous election coverage. Early voting is still underway, and the special primary election is on March 4th.
Visit the county's Board of Elections website to find your designated voting site. And if you missed any of our candidate interviews, you can catch them on our YouTube page at youtube.com/PGCTV online.
Still to come on CTV News.
Bryce Parker has the Friday Sports page.
What's up, sports fans? It's time for your Friday Sports page, and we're starting with the Bowie State women's basketball team who defeated the Livingstone Blue Bears last night, advancing to the semifinal round of the CIAA tournament. Today, the Lady Bulldogs took on the #1 seeded Virginia State Trojans, and Simon Buggs has our game highlights.
It was an exciting day over in Charm City as the Bowie State women's basketball squad took the court against Virginia State in the semifinal round of the CIAA tournament. The first quarter was nip and tuck as both teams traded baskets and couldn't really put any distance between one another. But VSU was able to build a small lead to end the first as his triple nailed by Skylar White had the Lady Trojans up 17-13 on Bowie to end the first. In the second quarter, VSU began to pull away more as missed shots from the Lady Bulldogs and some defensive lapses helped the Lady Trojans expand their lead to double digits. But towards the end of the quarter, Bowie was able to go on a run, and buckets like this push shot from Aisha Thomas and this block from Kristen Sterling that turned into 2 points for her team had the Lady Bulldogs down 34-28 going into halftime. The Lady Bulldogs had a 1-point lead going into the fourth as they were up 44-43. But in the fourth, poor shooting from Bowie allowed VSU to take the lead again as they were up 56-50 with a little under 3 minutes to go in the ball game. Fast forward to later on, guard Destiny Wiles, who had 29 points in the game, made this clutch and one basket and free throw to make the score 61-59 with under a minute to go. But soon after, Lady Trojans guard Majay Hayes was able to get to the cup and make this layup to make the score 63-59 in favor of her team with 13 seconds left. And after multiple tries, Bowie couldn't buy a bucket and they fell to VSU 63-59.
We knew going into the game that it would be a game that we had to be consistent throughout the entire 40 minutes. Virginia State's a good team. I think we had a good chance of winning the game, but we just had too many mental lapses that hurt us at crucial times. Despite the loss, I'm extremely proud of our team. Nobody wants to lose, of course. We don't want to go home, but at the end of the day, they picked us to be 11th, and we made it to the Final Four.
Congratulations, ladies, on a great run. Better luck next year. Now, switching to high school hoops, the Maryland State playoffs begin today as schools across the county prepare for their shot to win it all. Tonight's boys basketball 1A matchups are Surrattsville versus College Park Academy, CMIT South versus International High School at Largo, and Friendly versus Central. The boys 2A division will feature Largo versus Potomac, Crossland versus Fairmont Heights, and Frederick Douglass versus Gwynn Park. And rounding out the boys with the 4A division, we have Northwestern versus Northwood, High Point versus Reservoir, Parkdale versus Bladensburg, Roosevelt versus Wise, and Suitland versus Annapolis. And ladies, you know we couldn't forget about you. The 1A division will feature CMIT South, who will take on International High School at Largo, CMIT North will take on Central, and Surrattsville takes on College Park Academy. In the 2A division, North Carolina will take on Parkside, Douglas takes on Lackey, Largo takes on Potomac, and Fairmont Heights will play Crossland. And in the 4A division, Suitland will battle against North Point, Bowie will play Broadneck, Roosevelt will play Bladensburg, and Wise will take on Duval. And wrapping up sports, the Washington Capitals fell to the St. Louis Blues last night at home. The Blues led the Capitals all night as they found the back of the net 5 times with the final score of 5-2. The Capitals will try to get back in the win column tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And the wait for the much-anticipated boxing lightweight title fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamont Roach Jr. is almost over. Tomorrow, Lamont Roach will attempt to spoil Davis's 30-0 record and add the WBA lightweight belt to his collection along with his WBA super featherweight belt as well. And that is your Friday Sports page. I'm Bryce Parker. See you again next week.
And that wraps up CTV News for now. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you again Monday. Good night.